I'll say a few things about an incident that happened at the World Swimming Championships in Gwangju, South Korea, because I think it produces a number of interesting talking points. This incident involved Britain's Duncan Scott from Scotland and China's Sun Yang, who's a controversial figure in the sport, on the grounds that he previously failed a drug test in 2014. As I understand it by the report, what happened was he faced a 3 month drug ban over an acrimonious 4 hour dispute with drug testers, in which it was alleged he smashed blood samples with a hammer. And the World Anti Doping Agency is challenging a ruling by FINA made to warn Sun over that incident. So he's a controversial character. He was also accused. I mean, he strikes me as a guy with a bit of a temper because he was accused by a female Brazilian swimmer of hitting her in the warm up pool at previous world championships. Now, it doesn't mean it's true, but this guy doesn't have the best reputation. I remember when he had the running feud with the Australian Mac Horton, and now it's Britain, and apparently, a lot of swimmers from a lot of countries are furious that Sun's being allowed to compete in this event. Um, and the World Doping Council is challenging that. It wouldn't be surprising to me, and this is purely speculation, I can't prove it, but it wouldn't surprise me, China being the sort of overbearing country it is these days, if the Chinese government had stuck its nose into this and tried to um, uh, basically influence Fina's decision. That would not surprise me at all, because there's been a long track record outside sport as well. Now, the interesting thing is when I looked at the comments, often when it comes to sport, you get the 50 Cent Brigade out in force. That is usually young Chinese who are very nationalistic and very defensive. Um, they were surprisingly sparse. The vast majority of comments, not just from Westerners, from other Asians, were critical of Sun. So basically, during the event, what happened was um, Duncan Scott refused to share a podium with him on the principle that he didn't want to shake hands with a drug cheat. Sun lost his temper and he visibly berated Scott. And then afterwards, when he stepped down from the podium, he said, "I'm the winner, you're the loser." It was almost like a boxer squaring up to someone, in the pre-fight hype. Very aggressive behaviour. I think Sun should have been sanctioned for that. As it turned out, both men were warned by FINA, the governing body. So here's my take. I don't know 100% if Sun is guilty or not. Okay, I don't know, so I can't pretend that I do. But it wouldn't surprise me, on the grounds that this guy has a reputation, and on the grounds that communist countries, this was the same in the old Soviet Union, have a culture of cheating, of drug cheats. I'm not saying it's never happened in the West. I'm not saying America's had drug cheats as well. Sure, it has. But for a country like China, winning is more important than honesty. I honestly believe that is inbuilt in communist China. And before anyone accuses me of being xenophobic, I know there are many decent, honest Chinese people, but I think Sun is a personification of everything that is ugly about China nowadays in terms of bullying behavior, in terms of sheer arrogance. So a lot of people would say were commending Scott for being principled, saying things like it's better to get a bronze than a crooked gold. Um, I mean, as a sports person, you want a clean conscience that the people you're competing against are clean, that it's fair competition. That's the whole essence of what sport should be about, particularly in the Olympics. So if these guys go to the Olympics, um, if Sun is cleared for that, then there's going to be very serious questions. Like I say, the vast majority of comments were supporting Scott. One or two Chinese where this girl had it in their head that, oh, it's just like America accusing China of 5G. corruption, and she just contradicted herself. She couldn't. She said why would it be accepted into this event, but she ignored the fact that he the World Anti-Doping Council has looked at Son in a very negative light. I mean, yeah, I think it's behavior alone. Put it this way, this is my gut feeling. If he's innocent, an innocent man wouldn't be so defensive. An innocent man would have a clean conscience, and he wouldn't be losing his temper like that. He'd be behaving like a sportsman. Son is behaving like a brat. Um, and I have to say, Duncan Scott was calm and composed throughout. He didn't lose his temper. He didn't rise to it. He didn't even respond. He just, on a point of principle, said to himself, I'm not going to honor a cheat." And I guess one could argue that if he did, that would be legitimizing this guy. Adam Peaty, the head of the British Swimming Association, I forget the exact terminology, but he supported Duncan's stance. Um, I remember when the Mac Horton thing was going on, a lot of Chinese writing for saying, "Oh, Australia's jealous of us." There's a real bombastic jingoism about China these days, and I think, frankly, the rest of the world's getting a little bit tired of it. No, it doesn't mean we can't generalize. Not every Chinese is like this, but I think some personifies it.